Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, Into the Moonlight, by Griz, Calderon. The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the cheerful yellow curtains Mildred had sewn herself. She stood at the sink, hands submerged in soapy water, humming softly as she washed the breakfast dishes. Life, though routine, was good. At 46, she was healthy, happily married, and surrounded by her close-knit circle of friends and family. Mildred had no reason to expect anything but more days like these, simple, full, and fulfilling. But life doesn't always warn us before it changes. It started with a persistent fatigue she couldn't shake. Mildred chalked it up to being busy, pushing herself too hard. Then came the aches and the sudden, inexplicable weight loss. Reluctantly, she visited her doctor, expecting a prescription for vitamins or a warning to slow down. Instead, she left the appointment carrying a diagnosis that shattered the life she had built: cancer. The months that followed were a whirlwind of treatments, hospital visits, and nights filled with prayers and tears. Mildred was not alone in her fight. Her husband was her rock, and her faith in something greater gave her strength. Against the odds, the treatments worked. A year later, she was declared cancer-free. Her friends called her a miracle, and Mildred allowed herself to believe it, to hope for a future that had once seemed stolen from her. But miracles, too, are fleeting. 5 years later, the symptoms returned. This time, there was no treatment to chase the disease into remission. Mildred sat in her doctor's office, her heart sinking as the oncologist gently explained that the cancer had spread. The prognosis was terminal. On the drive home, the shock gave way to clarity. Mildred decided she would not spend her remaining days mourning her fate. She would not succumb to despair or fear. If this was her final chapter, she would write it boldly, filling every page with moments that mattered. Mildred's days became filled with purpose. She visited the places she had always meant to see, like the flower fields of the countryside and the lighthouse by the sea. She laughed with her grandchildren as they baked cookies, their giggles filling the kitchen. She forgave old grievances and reconnected with friends she hadn't spoken to in years. There were difficult moments, too, days when the pain was unbearable, when her body felt like a stranger's, betraying her at every turn. But even then, Mildred found beauty. She would sit by her window, watching the first light of dawn creep over the horizon, casting a soft glow across the world, whispering her gratitude for another day. Through it all, she felt a strange, quiet peace. It was as though an unseen hand rested gently on her shoulder, steadying her through her darkest hours. At first, she dismissed it as her imagination, but over time, she came to believe that something, or someone, was walking this journey with her. On the final night of her life, Mildred lay in her bed, gazing out through the window at the night sky. The moon cast a silvery glow over the garden, its light filtering softly through the curtains. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves outside, carrying a peaceful stillness into the room. The house was silent, her family asleep upstairs, their presence a comforting reminder of the love that had filled her life. She knew it was time. The air in the room grew still, and a gentle, radiant light filled the space. From the shadows, he emerged. The Grim Reaper, cloaked in his traditional black robe, his scythe gleaming in the moonlight. Mildred felt it immediately, the same presence that had walked beside her through the hardest days of her journey. Now, that feeling was even stronger, enveloping her like a warm embrace. Around him was a halo of pure, luminous white light, warm and inviting. His presence was not one of fear, but of comfort, like a trusted companion who had been with her all along, now here to guide her home. Mildred met his gaze, her brown eyes steady. "I knew you were with me," she said softly. Her voice, though weak, carried a quiet strength. "All these years, I felt you. When I was first diagnosed, when I woke up each morning, not knowing if it would be my last. You gave me peace, didn't you?" The Reaper inclined his head ever so slightly, an unspoken acknowledgement. "I wasn't afraid," she continued. "Not then, not now. I lived each day as fully as I could, and I'm ready." He extended a hand, his bony fingers encased in the glow of his light. Without hesitation, Mildred placed her hand in his. His touch was warm, reassuring, and the pain that had consumed her body for so long melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of calm. As they stepped into the light together, Mildred felt the weight of her earthly existence lift. There was no sorrow, no regret, only a profound sense of release. She looked back once, seeing her home bathed in moonlight, and whispered a final goodbye to the life she had lived so well. The Reaper did not speak, but she felt his promise. What lay ahead was not an end, but a beginning. A realm where pain did not exist, and the days stretched into eternity. And so, hand in hand with Death himself, Mildred walked into the light, unafraid, unburdened, and at peace. The end.